How very sorry I am to miss your 40-year homecoming. The class of 1968 has a special place for me. That was an exciting, perhaps tormented time on campuses across the nation. That was the summer of the Democratic Convention in Chicago. I was a delegate at that convention for Eugene McCarthy, and I was on the Credentials Committee, where I stumbled through a brief talk on national television. A number of you were involved in the campaign that got me elected as a delegate. The college was somewhat different then. Of course, we have new buildings since that time, like the Green Touch Science Center and the wonderful new Cornerstone Arts Building, just now being dedicated. The students are somewhat different now. They're still interested in public issues like global warming and the environment, but they're not as rebellious as you were in those days. Faculty-student relations are unfortunately different. In your day, you were here before the incredibly stupid change in the drinking law that made drinking 3-2 beer illegal until the age of 21. In your day, there were many student-faculty parties involving beer drinking and uninhibited dancing to the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and other classic types. Now faculty-student parties are dry because many students are under 21. They are less interesting and less fun. Of course, many of the faculty members you knew are gone. I was a semi-young Turk then. Now I am the very old guard, to say the least. How I remember those days. I remember Chuck Buxton as a rather pugnacious editor of the newspaper. Was it still called the Tiger in those days? I remember Bob Sears coming into my class looking as if he had just gotten out of bed, which he probably had. I remember Martin Fritter, who with Jack Burial was a member of my freshman selected student history class, bawling out a raucous version of the Rolling Stones' I Can't Get No Satisfaction. I can still see many of you sitting in my classes. Nick Binkley, Diana Padelford, in my diplomatic history class, for example. It was long ago. It was only yesterday. The college looks different now, but in many ways, it's still the same. We're still trying to prepare our students to play constructive roles in a turbulent world. The challenges were somewhat different then, the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. You remember that Martin Luther King was assassinated just a few months before you graduated. After some of those beery parties, we used to join hands and sing We Shall Overcome. We did that, led by George Thompson, after I spoke to alumni in Portland a few years ago. Some of us were crying. New times present new challenges for present students and for alums as well. We had a mutual challenge, you and I, to take what we learned from liberal education, you as students and I as teacher. Now we have an additional responsibility because we have had the benefit of experiences in the real world. I was a veteran of the Second World War and was active in politics. You have had a wide variety of experiences. Now, 40 years later, we are challenged anew to use the values we learned from our association with Colorado College and our real experiences in the real world to devote our energies to pressing problems of our time. War and peace, the energy and financial crises, global warming, the problems of healthcare and poverty, and on and on and on. We are equipped to do that because this great college gave us a platform of knowledge and of values on which to stand. At the end of my course in recent U.S. history, which the students, probably some of you, used to call Bend the Knee to Franklin D. in recent U.S. history, I always used to say that I didn't care whether they became Democrats or Republicans, which was not entirely true. But I did hope they would be actively involved in public affairs with a sense of compassion for those less fortunate, who, but for the accident of birth and the grace of God, might be ourselves. Now I think that about you and about myself. How I wish I could share this reunion with you. Think that I will be thinking hard about you in faraway China on homecoming day. Thinking hard